Hi everyone, Anne Boundy from Said With Love, and I'm so excited. There is so much to tell you about a year of hearts for this month. We're going to be releasing quite a few blocks and a couple of layouts, and I want to tell you all about it. So keep watching to see all the details. Okay, so first up is this month's block, and well, it's actually 3 blocks. I wanted to finish things up before the end of the year for you and for me. I want to get things quilted. I want to get things done before Christmas comes around because I've got a lot of family things planned. So big push to get a lot of things out to you this month. So the very first block is our little heart in a heart. So this is a fun opportunity to play with 2 different prints and to add to our little hearts for a year of hearts. So I'm going to pop that one up on my little board, put that one over here. So that one's a pretty nice and easy one. The instructions for that won't test you too much. So that one's going to be a nice easy one to add into your quilt. And then the next block that I want to release this month is something very close to my heart, which is the Quilt Barn. And I couldn't resist doing a barn block with a heart barn quilt on the outside as well. So I just thought that was going to be a bit of fun. Now, this one's got a little bit of foundation paper piecing to get those roof elements working, and we're going to do a quarter square triangle. So I don't think I've done a video on that yet, so they'll be showing you how to do that as well. So that is the next block. Starting to look good, isn't it? Okay, now the last block is, I had always planned to do a lovely Christmas tree for us. A lovely, scrappy, very pink Christmas tree. Now, you could leave it literally just like that. As you can see, I've got these lovely little sort of soft background hearts on the outsides. You don't have to put those in. You could just put a square of your background. That would be fine. Now, you might notice there's no hearts on this one, but I have some plans for that. So I will show you in a minute what my embellishment plans are for that. So that is our Christmas tree. Now, let's start talking about the different layouts. So there are actually, silly me, going to be 3 layouts for a Year of Hearts blocks. The first 2 are going to be offered free to my newsletter subscribers. So if you are not a newsletter subscriber yet, get on board. There's a link in the caption below. And this first one I'm calling the sashing layout. Seriously, I was getting to the point where I'm running out of great names for things. So this one is just going to be a nice, simple 3x4 grid, so you can have your 12 blocks. And because I've actually given you more than 12 blocks, you can pick and choose which ones you like. I was listening that a few of you didn't really like the letters that we did. Was that May or June? So this layout, you don't need the letters. It's all just the blocks. And what we're going to do is actually have some sashing and sashing here. So let me just start moving that one down. So we're going to have some sashing between the rows, between the blocks, and we are going to have, you guessed it, hearts. Some cute little hearts as cornerstones. So this is just going to just be a very subtle, soft sort of thing. Now, I've chosen to use a really, really soft pink background. I was looking at doing a colour sashing, but it was taking away from the blocks. And I've used this gorgeous sort of low volume scrappy background. So I finally decided, and obviously you can do something completely different, I decided I'm going to continue my low volume scrappy for the sashing, and then have these just very low volume little hearts, and it's just going to be quite soft, not in your face at all. So I think that's going to look lovely. And I've started cutting out some of my low volume backgrounds, and I've got to say I'm getting a bit to the scrappy part. So some of these might not be just one piece of fabric. I might actually have multiple pieces of fabric. So we'll see how my stash goes. So yeah, I've started cutting out all of those so we can start making our cute little hearts and the cute little sashing to go with it. So that is what the heart and sashing looks like. Just a nice simple one. Now, for those of you who did like the letters that we did, the words that we were making, either heart or maker, I've done a different option for you. And I'm actually not going to sew this one up myself because I'm keeping my letters for the third option. But this is what it's going to look like. You put your word down the left-hand side, and then you put your blocks across in rows. So it could either be heart or it could be maker, or for some of you, I know you even made some different letters as well, so it could be your name or whatever. So that's another fun one. There's no sashing between those, so that's a nice, simple putting together and getting a quilt finished. We have done quite a lot of blocks, obviously, with the letters. There was lots of letters, but also the mug month. We had some different blocks in there. So I've used, up here, I've used the little mugs, but there was 2 larger options as well for that. So if you're looking to do this particular option and you're perhaps thinking, I haven't got enough blocks, obviously with the 3 that I've released today and some of your mug blocks, you should be fine. There is going to be one more block that I will release with the heart. Oops, I've given it away, haven't I? With the third layout. You knew that was going to be a heart, didn't you? So the third layout I'll talk about in another video, but just a quick sneak peek, that's what it's going to look like. So I'm really excited about that. So I think I talked very early on that I was doing these sort of low volume backgrounds, sort of very, very quiet sort of blocks, and then I was flipping others around and doing the colour on the background, and the actual centre of the block was low volume and things. So I'm going to use those blocks for my heart layouts. So might take a couple of more weeks to get that done though. Okay, so we now have a few things to talk about. We've got some things to talk about for the Quilt Barn block, and we also have some things to talk about for our Christmas tree block. So I will get to and show you all of those. So let's talk about quarter square triangles, or QSTs for short, and that's what a quarter square triangle is. So triangle, 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 triangle. Now, the traditional way was to literally cut the triangles and sew them together, which is fine, and sometimes I still do if I need to get different colours or different fabrics in the different positions. But for one that looks like this, so much easier to do it sort of like 2 half square triangles. So let me show you. First of all, we grab our 2 squares that we want to be making the 2 fabrics for the quarter square triangle. We're going to put them right sides together. And as I do for my half square triangles, I get my cute little 1/4 inch plus ruler, which is actually 1/2 inch wide, but there's a little etched line right down the center, and I line that up with the points of my squares, and I mark 2 lines, and the other ones I actually sew on. So instead of marking a line down the center and using a foot on your sewing machine to get your 1/4 inch away, I just literally mark the lines and be done with it. And because these are reasonably large squares, I'm going to just pin just to make sure they don't move too much. And then I'm going to go and sew on those 2 lines and then cut right down the center. So here are my 2 HSTs that I've just made. So when I cut them apart, I pressed to the dark side. You need to press to the same side, so whether it's dark or light, it doesn't matter, but you need to press to the same side. And then we take our 2 HSTs and we're going to put them together. And because we've pressed to the same side, so we've pressed to that dark side, we've pressed to that side, this seam will actually nest. So I'm just moving my fingers along, making sure it's buttered up together but not overlapping. And then I'm going to pin to make sure it doesn't move. And then I'm going to bring my trusty little ruler again, and perpendicular to that original seam, I'm going to mark another 2 lines. And now I'm going to go to the sewing machine and sew on those 2 lines and cut in the middle. And then we're going to have our 2 quarter square triangles. Okay, so here's the 1/2 and here's the one that I have pressed open. So as you can see, when you open up that second seam, you get a quarter square triangle, which is pretty awesome. And because we nested those seams together, this point in the middle meets beautifully. So, and you get 2, so that's perfect for our barn block. And now the last bit is to just do the trimming. So my instructions in the barn block are oversized, so allowing you to trim down. It doesn't really matter what ruler you get. One that's the perfect size is fantastic, but you can do the trimming with a slightly larger ruler, and you just do 2 sides at a time. But this one is the exact size that I need it to be, and it does have a lovely diagonal line. So I'm centering that onto my diagonal line. I'm centering the block, the ruler, onto that point, and that should mean that these 2 little points are right on the seam as well. And then you trim, and you've got the perfect trimmed QST block. So the other part of our Quilt Barn block that I just wanted to show you about is the roof sections and how we do those. I decided that a foundation paper piecing option was the best way to go. Anything else was very fiddly and quite difficult to explain, so this was nice and simple. So there are some templates in the back of your pattern, and we just need to cut them out around the outer dotted line. And you'll have 4 of those. We've got 2 left and 2 right, and they're the same size. And so then you'll need your 2 squares of fabric, which are outlined in the pattern. One for your background, outer part of the block, and one for your actual Quilt Barn wall, and then another piece for the actual roof. And this one that I'm going to do, the Quilt Barn's going to have a purple roof. I think that sounds fantastic. So the first thing we need to do is just grab our squares, and we're going to cut them in half, and this will do 2 blocks. So I'll just pop 2 of those aside. So we've got your background, your wall colour, your piece of paper, and your roof. And so what we need to do, of course, we're working on the back side. So we're going to have our background colour is our one. And then we're going to have our roof. Now, what I like to do before I get going too far, and I always forget, is to just fold back. So folding it like that allows you, when you flip it over, to see where you have to cover. And I need to make sure I'm 1/4 of an inch past that. So that is going to be ample past. And then I have my roof fabric, and I'm going to put that right sides together. And again, I need to make sure that that's 1/4 of an inch past. And I'm just going to pop a little pin to hold those two. Then I'm going to flip them over, and I'm going to sew on that seam, and I'm going to decrease my stitch length. I usually do it at about a 1.5. Actually, I'm going to just move that pin just a little bit further. It's going to interfere with my sewing. A 1.5 stitch length, and go right from the edge of the paper off to the other side of the paper. So once we've sewn that seam, I can just fold back where we had folded the paper back, and I'm just going to quickly trim anything over 1/4 of an inch. So I've got my 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and then I can go to the ironing board and do a press, so that I get a nice press of that, and then we repeat the process. So I'm just going to fold back that next line. And I'm going to find my wall colour now. Now I just need to make sure that I'm going to be 1/4 of an inch past that. I'm just going to do a quick flip just to make sure. And it might be that I need to scooch that triangle just a little bit further that way, just to make sure that it's going to cover all of that. So again, another pin to hold everything in place, and I'm going to go to the sewing machine and sew along that second line. So I've sewn along that second line now, so I can pull my paper back and trim back to 1/4 of an inch, and then I can flip it over and do a press, and there is our finished sewing. And then we just have to flip it over and trim off around the outside of the paper. I know some people find foundation paper piecing a little bit difficult, but once you get a little bit of a routine and a little bit of a habit of it, you can do some amazing things. And it's very precise. So there is a left-hand side. I got my text up the wrong way. That's what confused me. A left-hand side of, goes there. So we just need to rip the papers off. And that's the reason we do a shorter stitch length, because when you start ripping at seams, the shorter stitch length means more stitches, so it's not going to fall apart quite so much. So there we go. So there's 4 of those to do to go into our beautiful barn block. Now our beautiful heart Christmas tree block is pretty easy. I have used some templates this time. So I was looking at using foundation paper piecing for these little end of the branch blocks, because they're not actually half square triangles, they're half rectangle triangles, which are just that little bit different. It was just a bit fiddly and such a waste of fabric, and it wasn't easy. So I've done templates. So there are some templates at the back of your pattern that we can cut out. The G and the U are for the left and the right, and we are talking the pattern about how to fold your fabric and cut out 2 pieces at a time so that you can get a left and a right. So that's pretty easy then to just sew those triangles together. This little one up the top is sort of a funny shaped flying geese. So I, again, use some templates for that as well. It's only a little small one, so that wasn't too hard either. So just a little bit of template work this time. Now, the joy of embellishing. Oh, and as I did say when I was holding the block up, I put cute little hearts over here, just background, very low volume, but I did pop them in. You don't have to. You could just put some of your background, a background square, or if you wanted to, you could replace that with little stars. So, you know, two stars to sort of go with the season. Now, I had originally thought that I would do some little applique hearts, as we've been doing all through the year, and there are 2 little templates for the hearts. The large one, the larger heart, I've got going up the top of your tree. So instead of a star on the top of the tree, we're having a heart on the Year of Hearts Christmas tree. And then the smaller one is for some tinsel to go on the tree. So I started looking at doing applique, and I'm a bit like most of you, I'm a bit over the applique by the end of all of these blocks. So I started looking at my trims, and I found some fun different trims. So I found this cutest little tiny pom-pom trim, and I thought, gosh, wouldn't that just look so cute as some tinsel? Doing, you know, a couple of strands of that. And I started to think, well, you know, these ends, you'd perhaps want to secure them somehow. And I actually thought that I might unpick a little bit of this seam and pop the trim through and just sew up the seam again, just so that then that bit is in the back and well hidden and well secured, so that, you know, at some point when you decide to wash it or something like that, you could do it. And then, of course, with this trim, you've got a nice little spot that you could do some stitching to stitch it down so it wouldn't move. But I really did want hearts, so I put my cute little pom-pom trim aside, and I then found some cute little, and it is actually vintage. It was from, I think, my mum or Ian's auntie. Some cute little tiny rickrack. One is this lovely little pale pink, and one is this red. And I was tempted for the red, but what I wanted to do was use felt. You don't need to hand stitch felt down and things like that. So I am going to do some rickrack with some of the little felt hearts. I made a lovely big felt heart for up the top. Don't forget we need to allow for 1/4 of an inch to go into the seam, so don't put this up too high. I've sort of got it literally just over the top of there. And I decided that I prefer the pink rickrack, so I'm going to use the pink rickrack. I've cut out lots of felt hearts, and the picture in the pattern sort of shows you where I sort of plan to put these. I think there's 2 up here, 4 on that one, and then there's 5 down this one. I couldn't resist, just for the little odd one, making that one pink. So that is my plan, and I will, I think, put my ends of my rickrack just into the seam. So I'm just going to unpick the seam a little bit, pop it in, sew the seam back down so that I'm sewing my rickrack into the seam, and then the ends can be looked after. And I will sew the rickrack down. So again, when I'm long arming, the foot's not going to get caught under there and move things. And I'm thinking I will just do some stitching actually on the felt, just around an eighth of an inch inside, just to hold the felt hearts down as well. But what fun. And I started to think of all the other fun things you could do, things like buttons and doing some embroidery stitches and whatever else. But obviously things like buttons, you can't put them on until after you have done your quilting, unless you're quilting on your domestic and you can literally sew around them. But please don't put buttons on your quilt and then expect your long armour to deal with them. That could be quite expensive for you. But I hope you have fun playing with the embellishment for your Christmas tree. Now, one more thing that people have been asking for, they may have missed a block or so during the year, they were away, they forgot, whatever. I'm also, for my newsletter subscribers this month, giving a coupon that will allow you to go back and grab a block from before and give that to you at no cost as well. So just one block though. So if you've missed multiple, you may have to purchase one of those blocks that you really wanted to do. And that's another thing too. Obviously, at some point, I can't quite give a definite date for that yet, but at some point in the next little while, I will be putting all of the blocks together and I will be putting them all with the 3 layouts. So you'll get the lovely heart layout as well. Into a paid pattern. So if there are friends that have been watching you do all of these blocks over the year and they didn't get on the newsletter train, they will be able to purchase the whole pattern with all the blocks and the layouts, etc., so that they can make the whole quilt all at once. So that's the plan. And I would just love to say thank you so much for everybody for joining in on A Year of Hearts this year. I've had some lovely emails from people who've enjoyed the blocks, have been making them, have been sending me pictures of their makes. So I can't wait to see you start to put some together in whatever layout of mine that you choose, or one of your own perhaps. Always love to see that. And don't forget that you can always join us over in our Facebook Sew Along and Quilting group, and we will cheer your progress along. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint quilting. So I fully expect to be seeing these blocks and quilts appearing all through next year as well. So thank you so much.